Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney's tweeting Casper genes.
The way he speaks of Latino immigrants is so blatantly racist. It is intolerable, poisoning the blood of our country. It's in their genes. I firmly believe that murder is in their genes. Who's he talking about? Is he talking about me? Is he talking about my dad? Is he talking about my children?
Oh, look who we have. Byron, stand up, please. Superstar of the future. He's already a superstar, but he's a superstar of the future. Byron Donalds, Florida. Wow, that's nice to have you here. That's good. He's great. He's great. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. That one is smart. You have smart ones and you have some that aren't quite so good.
It certainly falls into the general definition of fascist.
Into the mountainous region of Asturias in northern Spain, and there managed to defend themselves, establishing Regnum Astororum, the last safe haven of Visigothic nobility and Christians in Hispaniola. From there, the centuries-long Reconquista of the Spanish peninsula started, and it's during this time that the term Blue Blood, or Sangre Azul, appears in literature. It was during the Spanish Reconquista against the Muslim enemy that Spanish nobles, tracing their lineage all the way back to the Visigothic kingdom, would lift up their sword arm, displaying the superficial blue blood veins beneath their pale white skin, which was taken as the proof of their noble Visigothic lineage, and that their birth has not been contaminated by the enemy, whose skin was a darker color. From there, the term quickly spread across Europe to characterize all nobility, not just of Visigothic descent. However, with that, it also slightly changed its meaning. The term blue blood now meant that as part of the noble family, you were rich enough not to do any manual labor outside in the sun. Therefore, as a result, your skin was naturally paler to those of the peasantry. This resulted in your veins, which appear blue from outside, to be more visible and therefore giving you the term blue blood. This term stuck around throughout history, however it wasn't used that often until the early 19th century and is still used widely today. The term blue blood now meant that as part of the noble family, you were rich enough not to do any manual labor outside in the sun. Therefore, as a result, your skin was naturally paler to those of the peasantry.
Enslavers differentiated between domestic servants who worked closer to white people as more desirable than the people who worked in the fields.
In medieval Europe, local lords or nobles were the primary figures who controlled the lives of peasants. These lords owned the land where peasants lived and worked. The relationship was defined by the feudal system, which structured society into a hierarchy. Peasants often found themselves at the bottom, with limited personal freedom. Most peasants were serfs, meaning they were bound to the land. They could not leave without the lord's permission. This created a dependency on the lord for protection and livelihood. Peasants were required to provide labor, pay rents, and give a portion of their crops to their lord. Additionally, lords imposed various obligations on peasants. For example, they had to work on the lord's own land several days a week. This system ensured that peasants remained tied to their lords, making it difficult for them to improve their circumstances. The church also played a significant role in controlling peasants. It had religious authority and imposed tithes, which were payments made to support the church.
The term blue blood now meant that as part of the noble family, you were rich enough not to do any manual labor outside in the sun. Therefore, as a result, your skin was naturally paler to those of the peasantry. This resulted in your veins, which appear blue from outside, to be more visible and therefore giving you the term blue blood. This term stuck around throughout history, however it wasn't used that often until the early 19th century and is still used widely today.
I talk a fair amount about how fascism and eugenics, they're like this. But I have talked extensively about how women tend to artificially alter their voices under white supremacy and the patriarchy in order to appear more acceptable to men, to appear less threatening, and attempt to present as sexually desirable and also innocent and fragile and needing protection from men. We perform a certain kind of femininity that we think is submissive, infantilizing, appealing to men in order to buy ourselves a measure of protection within this system. The history of blue jeans is very closely tied with racism, especially when it comes to cotton cultivation and indigo cultivation in the United States.
Colorism, the Blue Vein Society, and the paper bag test.
Okay, bam.
Colorism in the United States was introduced in the 18th century. Enslavers differentiated between domestic servants who worked closer to white people as more desirable than the people who worked in the fields and were furthest away from the house. They were often more partial to light-skinned enslaved people because they often were family members. Enslavers frequently forced enslaved women into sex, and the light-skinned children of enslaved people were the telltale signs of these sexual assaults. While enslavers didn't officially recognize their mixed-race children, they gave them privileges that were denied to dark-skinned enslaved people. Accordingly, light skin came to be viewed as an asset in the community of enslaved people. Their hierarchy was white, light, dark, and then animal. After emancipation in 1865, colorism increased. White communities tried to keep black people, both light and dark, away from them, and light people tried to keep dark people away from them. In the 19th century, the Blue Vein Society came into existence. The Blue Vein Society refers to the historical phenomena among some African Americans in which the lighter-skinned individuals occupied positions of privilege, while darker-skinned blacks ranked lower on the social scale. There was more than one Blue Vein Society, and each excluded anyone whose skin was too dark to see the blue of their veins through it. It was a type of organization that aimed to identify who was white enough. Mulattoes and quadroons established many exclusive Blue Vein social clubs or societies. They were formed by upwardly mobile African Americans whose skin was light enough to allow them to pass as white. The Blue Vein test was one of several that some light-skinned African Americans used to distance themselves from those who were darker. The paper bag test was another test in which one's skin color was compared to a paper bag. Only those who were the same color as the bag or lighter could gain membership into whatever group they were trying to join. Why use the bag as a gauge? Because the paper bag color was believed to be midway between white and black hues. The brown paper bag test was used by African American fraternities, sororities, churches, and social clubs throughout the 20th century. Exclusion of any type is ugly, but there seems to be something especially hypocritical about African American churches not allowing dark-skinned African Americans as members. This was the same discrimination used by white churches that forbade African Americans of all hues from attendance. Colorism didn't disappear after the institution of slavery ended in the U.S. In Black America, those with light skin received employment opportunities off-limit to darker-skinned Black Americans. This is why upper-class families in Black society were largely light-skinned. Soon, light skin and privilege were linked in the Black community. Upper-crust Black Americans routinely administered the brown paper bag test to determine if fellow Black people were light enough to be included in social circles. A light complexion was once an admission qualification for college enrollment. It is probably no coincidence that light-skinned blacks emerged as leaders in the Black community. To white power brokers, they were less threatening. In America, these variations in complexions produced an unspoken hierarchy. Black people with lighter complexions ended up being granted some of the rights of the master class. To obtain a fairer complexion, many applied bleaching creams. Bleaching and skin lightening creams were a large part of the Black cosmetics industry. Some of these creams can be dangerous, containing harsh and cancer-causing ingredients. Although some elements of colorism still linger today, most African Americans, especially African American women, embrace their skin tones, whatever they may be, realizing that all black is beautiful.
Now, look, many people are happy with the ad. Some are saying that this is, the death of woke ads. But it's interesting to note, though, the shares of American Eagle actually went up after that Sydney Sweeney ad.